I know I'm feeling a little compromised, but I didn't get bashed in my head or I don't have some kind of concussion. And that's mostly the reason why I embarked on this and spent a lot of money on a metallic chamber. 3 months of HBOT, measurable increases in cerebral blood flow. 5-minute air breaks every 20 minutes. And then you put it back on again. And then you take it off, so it feels like it is missing out in oxygen. Protein deposits that are the hallmark of Alzheimer's. Reduced. In my last video, I shared something that made me kind of uncomfortable. I said that I might have overpaid for my 2.0 ATA hyperbaric chamber. That was based on all Harch's research, and Harch makes a compelling case. HBOT has a therapeutic window. Too little pressure and nothing happens. Push too hard, like a 2.4 ATA, and you generate oxidative stress that cancels out any benefit or even actively causes harm. For traumatic brain injury, TBI, Harch's data points to around 1.5 ATA as the sweet spot. If Harch is right and 1.5 ATA is sufficient, then I really spent more money than I needed to. My 2.0 ATA chamber was a mistake. But here's the thing that's been sitting with me since I made that video. Harch is answering a very specific question. What pressure does it take to repair a brain that has already been damaged? And that's not exactly my question. My question, and probably yours if you're watching my videos, is different. My question is, can HBOT slow down the biological aging of a brain that is still healthy? Can it push back the clock on processes that lead to dementia before they cause damage you can't undo? For that question, we have to look at a different researcher entirely. His name is Dr. Shai Efrati, and his work is what I've been basing my protocol on for over a year. Efrati runs a hyperbaric medicine center, and he spent years asking a question that most HBOT researchers aren't asking. It's not how do you repair injury, but it is, can you reverse the biology of aging in brains that are still functioning? Let me walk you through 3 of his findings because each one adds something important. The first is cognitive function. In a randomized controlled trial of 63 healthy adults over 64 years of age, 3 months of HBOT produced significant improvements. And when they looked at brain MRI, these cognitive gains related directly with measurable increases in cerebral blood flow. These were not injured brains. These were people who looked on paper completely fine, and their brains still got much better. The second is what HBOT does at the cellular level. After 60 sessions, telomere length in immune cells increased by over 20%. Senescent T helper cells, these are old malfunctioning immune cells, decreased by over 37%. Efrati described these as changes that outpaced any lifestyle intervention he was aware of. 3 months of HBOT did more to these aging markers than diet or exercise alone. The third finding is the one that matters most for dementia specifically. In an Alzheimer's mouse model, Efrati's team showed directly on brain tissue that HBOT increased cerebral blood flow while reducing amyloid plaque accumulation and formation. These amyloid plaque are the protein deposits that are the hallmark of Alzheimer's. Reduced. In the human arm of the same study, elderly patients with significant memory loss showed increased cerebral blood flow and improved cognitive performance after treatment. And that's mostly the reason why I embarked on this and spent a lot of money on a metallic chamber. Anyway, vascular repair, cellular senescence reversed, and amyloid clearance. That's a very different target than repair after traumatic brain injury. 2 different things. Before comparing Harch and Efrati, let's just go through the Efrati protocol. The Efrati protocol is the one that his trials used and the one that I follow to some extent. And that is 60 sessions, 100% oxygen, 2.0 ATA, 90 minutes per session with 5-minute air breaks every 20 minutes. These air breaks are not a rest. They're a part of the mechanism. It's a mechanism of cycling between high oxygen states and relative hypoxia, which is low oxygen states. And this is what drives the hormetic stress response, the adaptive signal that tells cells to repair and regenerate. Let me put this in a more simple to understand way. First, you go in, you get high oxygen at high pressure. Then you take off the oxygen, you remain in high pressure, but you get less oxygen. And your body feels a relative difference. So it feels like it is missing out in oxygen. And then you put it back on again. And then you take it off. And once again, the body feels, oh, I'm feeling relatively oxygen deprived. And that is what causes the cells to repair and regenerate. It's the oscillation that matters, not just the pressure. The on-off oscillation does something fundamentally different to your biology as compared to just sitting in a pressurized chamber for 90 minutes, playing on your phone, reading a book. That doesn't do as much. So remember, oscillation is key in the Efrati method. By the way, if anyone has done this before, please leave a comment and share your experience because I don't meet that many people out there having home-based oxygen machines. Now, let's get to Harch versus Efrati. Here's how I think about these two bodies of work. They're not in conflict. They're answering different questions. Harch asks, what does an injured brain need to repair? His answer, at least for now, is around 1.5 ATA. It's a very precise answer. And his hypothesis is that going higher introduces oxidative risk without additional benefit. Efrati, on the other hand, asks, what does a healthy aging brain need to resist decline? His answer from his data is 2.0 ATA, structured oscillation, repeated over 60 sessions. The biological targets: vascular health, cellular senescence, and amyloid clearance. This is why I can't just apply Harch's 1.5 ATA finding to my situation and call it settled. I'm not treating an injury. I'm trying to preserve function in a brain that, as far as I understand, still works mostly well. I know I'm feeling a little compromised, but I didn't get bashed in my head or I don't have some kind of concussion, and that's the difference. For that goal, Efrati's data, which is the only data that studies people like me, points to 2.0 ATA. I want to address questions that people who carry the APOE4 variant might have. Efrati's trials have not been stratified by APOE4 status, so we do not have data on whether 2.0 ATA has a specifically amplified benefit for APOE4 carriers. That's a real gap, and it matters because APOE4 carriers face a steeper trajectory towards exactly the vascular dysfunction and the amyloid accumulation that Efrati's protocol appears to target. So we don't really have any answers here for those with APOE4. Now, back to preventing dementia with HBOT. I started this video asking whether I overpaid for a 2.0 ATA chamber. The honest answer is I don't know because nobody has run a head-to-head trial of 1.5 versus 2.0 ATA in healthy adults trying to prevent dementia. That trial has not been done. You can watch my previous video on Harch and Wolf et al. And it covers a little on that, but the conclusion is still there that up to now, we still do not have a trial that compares 1.5 to 2.0 to 2.4 ATA. What I do know is that the only researcher who has studied the specific question I'm trying to answer, healthy aging, vascular function, amyloid dynamics, cognitive preservation, has used 2.0 ATA and his results are real. So I'm staying at 2.0 ATA, not because I'm defending a purchase. It's more because that's where the evidence lies, at least for now. I hope you found this interesting and it makes you think a little deeper about how to use hyperbaric oxygen therapy for the brain. This is Dr. Mark Chern representing my Midlife Brain project. I hope you like this. Thank you for listening.